Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Hey everyone, hope you had a good, restful Memorial Day weekend.
Hope you did too.
It's Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, and you're listening to Connecting the Dots.
We're coming to you from Snarful Solutions Group, right here in Sacramento, California.
Yep, and it is a sunny one today, looking like a high of about 90 degrees.
Nice day for it.
Definitely. Before we jump into the tech news, just a quick look back at the markets from last Friday. That was May 23rd.
Right.
The Dow Jones closed at 41603.07, and the S&P 500 finished at 5802.82.
Okay.
So with that, let's get into our deep dive. We've got 3 big tech stories today, and we'll connect the dots on, how they might impact things.
Sounds good. First up, a pretty significant acquisition making waves. Salesforce.
Salesforce. What are they up to?
They've announced they're buying own company. It's a $1.9 billion deal, all cash.
$1.9 billion. Okay. Own company. They're in data management, right? Cloud data.
Exactly. Cloud data management and protection. They're based out of New Jersey.
And this is what? Salesforce's biggest buy since Slack?
Yeah, biggest in Slack back in 2021. It's kind of interesting timing, too.
How so?
Well, you remember earlier this year, there was all that talk about them maybe acquiring Informatica.
Oh, right. That was a much bigger potential deal, but it fell through.
It did. So this acquisition of Own feels maybe more focused, more strategic, perhaps.
Makes sense. What's Salesforce saying about it?
Well, Salesforce GM Steve Fisher put out a statement really emphasizing their commitment to secure end-to-end data protection.
So doubling down on security in the cloud seems critical these days.
Absolutely. And Own, they actually started back in 2015 as Own Backup.
Own Backup. Okay.
They provide tools, really vital tools for things like automated backup, disaster recovery, mainly for SaaS applications.
Like Salesforce itself, I assume?
Yep, Salesforce, but also AWS, Microsoft platforms.
Yeah.
The big cloud players. They had raised a good amount of funding, over $500 million.
Wow.
And they were valued pretty highly a couple of years back, around $3.35 billion.
So there's clearly a big market need here. The whole data backup and recovery sector seems to be booming.
Oh, definitely. It was worth, what, almost $13 billion in 2023?
Yeah, nearly $13 billion. And growing fast, too, like an 11% average growth rate year over year for a while now.
And you can see why, right? With ransomware threats constantly in the news, data center disasters. Remember that big OVH fire in France?
Yeah, that was major.
And then you've got increasing regulations like the EU AI Act, putting more pressure on how companies handle data.
Right. So Own Company fits right into that picture. How many customers do they have?
They're saying nearly 7,000 customers. And it's not just backup anymore. They do data archiving, seeding, security, even analytics now.
Pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. And Own CEO, Sam Gutman, basically said their tools really complement what Salesforce already offers. Makes the whole data protection picture stronger for users.
So when does this deal actually close?
They're expecting it to close in Q4 of Salesforce's fiscal year 2025.
Okay. So you mentioned the Informatica thing falling through. Does this $1.9 billion deal maybe signal Salesforce is getting back into larger M&A even after they sort of suggested they were backing off big deals?
It could. It might mean they're just being more selective, targeting key areas like data protection. They did make a couple of smaller acquisitions recently too, PredictSpring and 10x.
Right. So maybe a more focused strategy now.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Moving from the cloud. Let's go way, way up. To space. SpaceX seems to be making noise about Mars again.
Yeah, it sounds like they're really accelerating efforts for a potential Mars mission. Uncrewed, mind you.
Uncrewed, right. And possibly as early as 2026.
That seems to be the target they're pushing for. Reports suggest they're even moving people around internally.
Like shifting resources.
Exactly. Moving employees from the Dragon program, which handles crew and cargo to the space station, over to Starship development to speed things up.
That's a big commitment, especially after those, less than perfect Starship test flights earlier this year.
Yeah, the ones in January and March 2025 didn't go quite as planned. They were pretty high-profile failures, or maybe rapid unscheduled disassemblies, as they sometimes say.
Aha, right. But it clearly hasn't deterred them. Didn't the FAA just give them the green light for more launches?
They did. A big increase, actually. Up from 5 Starship launches a year to 25.
25. Wow.
And they expanded the hazard zones around the launch site, too. One of their engineering execs, Shanna Dees, acknowledged on X it was a rough start of the year for Starship, but Yeah, they're pushing ahead.
And there's a military angle too, isn't there? Starfall.
Right, Starfall. That's their project for potentially moving large amounts of government cargo, like over 66,000 pounds. They're expecting more funding for that, about $149 million.
So government interest is definitely there. And this 2026 Mars timeline, why then specifically?
Well, partly it's about orbital mechanics. Earth and Mars align favorably for launches about every 26 months. 2026 is the next window.
Okay, the launch window.
And it also happens to align with some proposed NASA budget shifts under the Trump administration, potentially an extra $1 billion for Mars efforts, though other NASA programs might face cuts.
Interesting timing, but technologically it's still a huge leap, right?
Yeah.
What are the main hurdles?
Oh, massive hurdles remain. In-orbit refueling is a big one. They think they'll need 3 separate refueling missions in orbit just to get Starship to Mars.
3 refuels in space. That's complex.
Very. Plus, the lunar version of Starship, the one NASA needs for its Artemis mission to the moon in 2027, that's already facing delays.
Right. So a lot needs to go right. But this is core to Musk's vision, isn't it? Mars colonization.
Absolutely. That's why he started SpaceX. He even mentioned maybe putting Tesla's Optimus robot on that 2026 flight.
A robot on the first flight.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And he's aiming high, talking about sending 5 uncrewed Starships to Mars by 2026.
5.
5. And if those go well, then maybe crewed missions during the next window, which would be late 2028 or early 2029.
That feels incredibly ambitious, especially since, as you mentioned, they haven't actually landed Starship back on solid ground yet.
Correct. The last test flight ended with a splashdown in the Indian Ocean, which was progress, but not a LNTAD landing.
Still, Musk talks about exponentially increasing Mars trips, aiming for a self-sustaining city in, 20 years?
Yeah, that's the long-term vision he paints. Though it's fair to say his timelines for Mars have shifted over the years.
Understood. And he's voiced concerns about bureaucracy slowing things down.
He has. Worries about regulations hindering the Starship program. We've already seen NASA's Artemis 3 mission, which needs Starship, get delayed to 2026. And that private lunar trip by the Japanese billionaire Maezawa got canceled too.
Right. Just quickly, for anyone maybe less familiar, can you remind us what Starship actually is?
Sure. It's basically 2 parts. The Super Heavy booster, which is the first stage, and then the Starship spacecraft itself, the upper stage. It's about 165 feet tall. Together, it's the biggest, most powerful rocket ever built.
Biggest ever.
And the key design goal is full, rapid reusability. They plan to eventually land the Super Heavy booster right back on the launch tower using those big arms they call chopsticks.
Catching the booster with arms. Wild. How many tests have they done?
4 main flight tests so far, each one getting further and achieving more objectives. The next one, Flight 5, is supposed to be the first attempt at catching the booster with those chopsticks.
Okay. Definitely want to watch. Let's shift gears for our last story. From hardware in space to software and talent here on Earth. AI talent specifically.
Yeah, this one involves Meta and their Llama AI models. There are reports indicating a pretty significant talent drain, you could call it.
Talent drain. People leaving.
A lot of people leaving, particularly researchers from the team that originally built Llama. Many seem to be heading to competitors, especially a company called Mistral.
Mistral. Okay. How significant is this drain?
Well, consider this. Of the 14 authors on the original Llama paper from 2023, only 3 are reportedly still at Meta.
Only 3 out of 14. Wow, that's substantial.
It really is.
Yeah.
Losing that many foundational members can definitely pose a challenge, for continuity and future innovation.
And Mistral, you mentioned, they're snapping up this talent.
Seems that way. Mistral AI is a startup based in Paris. Interestingly, it was co-founded by 2 former Meta researchers who were key architects of Llama Guillaume Lample and Timothy Lacroix.
So the founders came from Meta's Llama team.
Yep. And now several other Meta alumni work there, building out competing open source AI models.
This must be happening at a tricky time for Meta's AI efforts, too.
It seems so. There are reports their biggest planned AI model, codenamed Behemoth, has been delayed due to some internal concerns. And their latest public model, Llama 4, apparently got a bit of a lukewarm reception from developers.
Nope.
Some are looking more towards rivals like DeepSeek or Quinn now.
So maybe losing momentum. And wasn't there a leadership change, too?
Yes, Joel Pineau, who led Meta's fundamental AI research group FAIR for 8 years, stepped down recently. Robert Fergus has taken over.
So leadership change, talent leaving. This really could challenge Meta's whole open source AI strategy, couldn't it?
It could. That original Llama paper back in 2023 was a big deal. It really legitimized these open-weight large language models as serious alternatives to proprietary ones, like OpenAI's GPT or Google's Llama.
Oh, right. They kind of opened the door for that whole movement.
They did. They trained Llama on public data, focused on making it efficient enough to run on, like, a single GPU, which made it accessible. But yeah, that early lead they had in open source AI might be slipping.
And they still don't have a dedicated reasoning model, which seems increasingly important for complex AI.
That's another reported gap, yeah. These departures don't help. And these aren't junior people leaving either. The average time the 11 departed authors spent at Meta was over 5 years.
So, losing a lot of experience, where are they all going besides Mistral?
All over, really. We mentioned Mistral has quite a few: Baptiste Rosière, Timothy Lacroix, Marianne Lachaud, Thibault Levril, Guillaume Lample. But others went to Namon Goyle at Thinking Machines Lab, Aurélien Rodriguez to Cohere, Eric Hambro to Anthropic, Armand Joulin to Google DeepMind, Gauthier Isacard to Microsoft AI, Edouard Grave to QTI, another French AI lab. It's a real migration.
That definitely highlights how fierce the competition for top AI talent is right now. This could potentially weaken Meta's innovation pipeline down the road.
It's a concern, for sure. Meanwhile, they are still working on Llama 4, apparently trying to tune it to address perceived biases, and they're also dealing with that copyright lawsuit.
Oh yeah, the one about training data potentially using pirated books.
That's the one. A judge is looking into whether it actually harmed the market for authors. So lots going on, but the talent departures are a major storyline. It just shows, in this AI race, holding on to your key people is absolutely critical.
No kidding. It's an incredibly competitive landscape.
For sure.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the 3 big stories from our deep dive today.
First, Salesforce making a significant $1.9 billion move to acquire a own company, bolstering its cloud data protection offerings.
Then, SpaceX really pushing forward with ambitious plans for an uncrewed Starship mission to Mars, targeting 2026 despite challenges.
And finally, Meta facing a notable talent drain from its core Llama AI team, with many key researchers moving to competitors like Mistral, highlighting that intense battle for AI expertise.
Right. And all these things, developments in data security, the push for space exploration, the shifts in AI talent, they all connect back and shape the technology landscape we all navigate.
Definitely. Big shifts happening.
Absolutely. Well, that's our time for today. Remember, we are here to help here at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.